Good afternoon, everyone. It's Diamond G coming with another installment. Before we get underway, I want to introduce my children. This is the future of the Lightner and Silvestri clan. It's my eldest daughter, Gianna. Say hi, Nana.
Hi.
You got Javant,
Hi.
G-Man, Jelena,
Hi.
and Giovanna.
Hi.
And they are my inspiration for why it is that I have to get this message out to those of us, and also abroad. We need to really make sure that everyone understands that we will no longer be overlooked and not be counted. We have families, we have responsibilities, and most importantly, we need to show them that there's a proper path to lead. All right? Okay, guys.
Okay.
Get going.
Okay. Come on.
Go enjoy yourselves. Go play. Go have some fun. So, go ahead. Go ahead, Lauren. Go ahead.
Can you play a video game?
Sure you can. Go ahead. Take the baby with you, please.
Exactly.
Okay. We're going to get right into something today. A very important topic, which I have often contemplated from time to time. And, we're going to call it so-called black economics versus American Negro economics. So the focus of this session here is going to be how we can put an end, to a lot of the foolishness that comes our way. A lot of us are perceived as being, foolish with our money. We don't put proper attention to where it needs to be put. We, buy things and put a lot of emphasis on clothing and, material goods without putting basically a roof over our head first. Now again, this is a common misconception that has been adopted by society at large and as a whole. And again, it just reflects a small minority of our so-called black community, and it basically magnifies the American Negro, and it shows the excesses of their tomfoolery and shucking and jiving, as you will, and step and fetch it type mentality. All right. So let's get into what exactly it is when I talk about so-called black economics, or we can call it black economics as well. Now, that is, where a person of color, doesn't necessarily have to be a quote-unquote black person. We could say a person of color comes to the realization, that there are bigger things on the horizon. Now, this is not something that you're going to be able to develop instantaneously. These are things that are taught to us. And, even those of us who were taught, at a very young age, sometimes we don't take heed to what we've been instructed to do, and, how things are supposed to go. So, I can raise my hand as one person who at one point or another has reveled in the foolishness that is, the American Negro concept of, buying big rims and, basically emptying your pockets at a nightclub. You go to the nightclub, you get paid on a Friday, you go to the nightclub, Friday night, and come Monday morning, you're broke. What I'm saying? Now you got to run and ask your mama to borrow $5 or $10. I did that, but the difference here was that being that I come from good stock, what I'm saying, and that is to be, I come from descendants, who have taken control of their lives, and basically lit a path for us to follow. I wasn't allowed to stray, but so far from the general flock that has been cultivated by my ancestors. Now, we'll start on both sides of my family just briefly. My grandfather, where I bear the name Lightner, Thomas Lightner, him and my grandmother Bernice Mills Lightner, they owned several businesses, owned restaurants, and that was ingrained in my father, and so that set the tone there. We can go even further back to on the Lightner side, to where my uncle Larry Lightner, he later became Larry Shaw, and that gives way to the Shaws that are direct Lightner descendants that are in North Carolina, out of Charlotte. Big shout out to them. I love you guys a lot. I haven't seen a lot of you in many years, but not a day goes by that I don't think about the lessons that we learned. So that was my grandfather's brother. He owned several businesses, and again, he strived and made sure that we understood what it was to be a Lightner and why we could not allow ourselves to fall into a culture of ignorance. So then we can go even further back to my great grandfather, or my great grandfather, and that would be Amzi Lightner. Again, a pioneer. He had his own businesses and things of that nature. And though he could have easily passed into so-called white society, he chose not to do so. So that says a lot about our character, as far as what our heritage is and where our core values come from. Even on the Mills side, Roland Mills, that's my great grandfather, through the way of my grandmother Bernice Mills Lightner. And you can just Google Roland Mills, and you'll see it. It's all about the foundation. And so I come from really good stock. Now we can go over onto my mother's side of the family. You've got Jimmy Trice, my grandfather, and Catherine Trice, my grandmother. And again, military veteran, came back, started a very successful sanitation business. He had his wife and 15 kids. Married. Married 15 kids, each and every one of them raised up the proper way. And I had the benefit of spending a lot of time with him, and he would explain to me about he saw a lot of things that I was going to be facing even before I did. And he told me that there was going to come a time where I would have to make a choice, and that would be either to be run amok, or to rise up and take my place in this world at the head of my family. But he said failure, and obscureness was not an option, and I've taken that to heart. So we go back even the McLean side, again, businessmen. That's just what it's all about. It's always been that drive, and if you basically can look around my family tree to this day. My cousins that I ran into that are from Toledo, the Lightners up there, very successful. A lot of them have their own businesses, but the key again is the fact that family structure is intact. It's pride. We know who we are. We can go and do things. We want to go hang out, or a couple people want to go and party for a little bit. They have the wherewithal to realize that there has to be a limit to that, but they still show up for work on Monday morning. So that is something that is vastly overlooked in today's society. So that being said, I'm gonna get into the conversation of like I said, black economics, so-called black economics versus American Negro economics. Now, when you take a look at it at first glance, a lot of times people be like, oh, I don't really see a difference. So well, that's why I'm here. I'm here so you can see the difference. And unfortunately, in my estimation, it's been right in front of you, but you choose not to see it. There is, again, I like to speak a lot about what is there to be gained in society by people of color who are, trying to become upwardly mobile, in a manner of speaking. What is to be gained in society by us being recognized for doing what everybody else does and what every other so-called culture here in America does, and that strive to succeed. And the bottom line is that it's an economical anomaly, more or less. For instance, now you can raise your hand if you ever, got on board with the, guys going and buying the Nike basketball sneakers. You go buy the Air Jordans because you think it's cool. Yeah, I did that when I was a young buck. But there were vast consequences for that. I'm not, why would I, I went, one time it happened to me. I went to the store. I think it was at like a Foot Locker. This is when I could still wear regular shoes. I think I was wearing like a size 15 or something like that. And I go and I buy these shoes. Now I've got my allotment for my school budget that my mother and father set aside for me. It was like $300 for the beginning of the year. So me, like a sucker, I said, hey man, wow, new Jordans are coming out. So I can go buy the new Jordans. It was like $160, $170. So now the rest of my budget, saying I have to, get school clothes with, and like a sucker, I could raise my hand because I was young and ignorant. I went and I'm like, man, well, I gotta, get these, these Perry Ellis, little watches, and then they started with the Hill Figure. I'll go and get a little Hill Figure sweatshirt, and guess what? I'm done. I'm done. But the illusion of quote unquote hood richness, I look fresh for one day out the school year. The rest of the time, I'm wearing, my clothes from last year, and pants are high watered. And I sat down and I asked my parents, like, hey, help me out. I was like, yo, all I got is that. And I'm like, we got money. My dad, had a very successful contracting business, and I said, hey, we have money. He said, well, son. And my mom both sat me down, and my father said, well, son, let me tell you something. He's like, we don't have nothing. He's like, me and your mother, have money. You have nothing. The only thing you have is an obligation to go to school and do what you're supposed to do. Nothing in this world is free. You will earn every bit. I'm not going to give you anything. And I was like, damn. So I'm just like, oh, man, I can't believe he said that, So I go to school, and I'm chilling out with my friends, and ironically, that's not something that was just with my dad, figuring he's trying to teach me responsibility, but my friends, so-called whites, we kind of had the same exact problem, because their parents would tell them the same exact thing, like, yeah, you ain't got nothing. You will earn your keep. So we kind of bonded over that, But what we also learned was a very valuable lesson, and we learned that, we cannot buy into commercialism, as a means of self-gratification. Because if you do that, then your needs, your basic needs, are not being met. So from that point on, I would go and I'd go to the shoe outlet, and I'd get whatever was on clearance, I'd get me like 3 or 4 pairs of kicks, for $200. I was like, yo, okay, now we're talking, and then what I did with my clothes, I shied away from the name brand stuff. If I can find some jeans that would fit me, get me a couple of nice, let's say like a Fox Polo, basically, which is, like a fake polo shirt. Basically, it's a polo shirt without the little man on it, And if I could get me a few of them shirts, I was like, okay, cool. Now I got enough, outfits to mix and match, But more importantly, I had money in my pocket, and I was looking real tight. Back then, as a young buck, it was all about the ladies, So, knowing that I was, I looked the part, I felt the part, I was looking good, and feeling good, So that was something that, through basically the school of hard knocks, my parents taught me. So it was early on that I had to start learning how to, throw off that, the yoke, which is, basically a funnel, towards ignorance, which makes up the American Negro and their stupidity. Now, a great part of the problem of the American Negro, or the symptoms of it, is this. Unfortunately, people who, do not have any idea or any concept of things are very easily led astray, So, for instance, it is my core belief that when you're speaking of the American Negro is akin to, you could say animalistic tendencies. Now there are going to be those who can be like, oh my God, yeah, oh you just referred to black people as animals. Oh no, absolutely not. What we're talking about is conduct by a select minority in our community. Okay, now these the reason why I've kind of dwelled a little bit and I'm starting to look into like the psychology of the problem itself, and you're like, damn, you sit there and you think to yourself, like, why is it that the American Negro is such a mess, when those of us saying the so-called blacks and even the so-called whites that look around, you're confused, you don't understand what the hell is going on. You're sitting there and you're trying to analyze their behavior, and the things they do. You're just kind of confused by the whole thing. Well, here's the deal. I had one of my uncles explain this to me, and he said, Gregory, let me tell you something. The reason why you cannot figure out nor predict how the American Negro is going to act is because the American Negro, him or herself, does not know what they're going to do. This is predicated, upon very, very simple mathematics, if you will. All right. If you don't have culture, right, or you don't understand your culture, you believe you came from nothing. You aspire to be nothing. You're lost. You literally go into a situation where you're living from day to day, minute to minute, and you can see it as it plays itself out every day. You can see you can see a cat who's on the corner. You can see this guy, real cool. He'll say hello to you every day, and then one day he just kind of does something stupid, like he'll grab a girl, and just do something really bizarre, that you really can't account for, and there's no explanation for it except for the fact that they themselves are confused. So their mind it's almost like they're like, you could almost consider it like you could relate it to like a glass cube, right? Now they realize they're in a cube, but that's the end of where their understanding goes. For some odd reason, they still believe that even though they know that they're in a cube and they can't get out, they're still going to be pressing their face against the glass. They're reacting as if they can actually touch what's on the other side of the glass, if that makes any sense to you, And that, in a nutshell, is basically a quick, synopsis of where their state of mind is. So now let's see where that leads to when it comes to economics. Now, you hear about, whenever there's a major situation, you ever stop to ask yourself, why is it that in these poor neighborhoods, for instance, like when Rodney King, got the brakes beat off of him, and for those of you who don't speak that type of slang, he got beat down, the cops literally laid wood to his behind, and he got mashed out, man. They stomped him out. So these fools, instead of them, coming together and trying to find a constructive way, to deal with the situation, what do? They attack the so-called black businesses in their own neighborhoods. Now, ironically enough, some of the only places that didn't get really lit up out there in Los Angeles during them riots were like the liquor store. That's interesting, right? That's a whole other set of circumstances. But they go in their own neighborhoods, they loot, they steal, they destroy, And again, they're not the majority. But had you been watching TV, you would have believed that they were the majority. They failed to show you the so-called black business owners that stood their ground. They were shooting these fools. They were trying to take their businesses down. So that therein, is a classic example of what the American Negro will do. Okay, and again, it makes no sense. However, they don't have a concept, of pride or self worth. So they will, those establishments in their own, saying in their own neighborhood where you figure would need their dollars the most, they refuse to subscribe to that type of thinking or mindset. Okay, so let's take that another step further. All right, we deal constantly, and those of you who are so-called blacks and business owners, you know this all too well. It's a really sad situation. You always hear people talking about, oh, we need to pump money, into the quote unquote black community. Saying black dollars need to support the black community, right? It sounds great, on the surface, but there's a couple of things that come out of that. As soon as you start to segregate yourself from the rest of society by placing such a label on yourself, you're already doomed. Okay, because what you're hoping for, is you're going to get a response from saying the so-called black and not the American Negro. You want them to come and support your business, because these are people who are educated and they're also going to have more buying power, and they're financially they'll be a little better off, and you would definitely want them to come to your business. But you also want so-called whites and others to be able to come to your business as well, and it's going to serve twofold. One, of course there's an economic reward, but the social rewards, and the gratification is that they see you, as a beacon. You are, the opposite of the stereotype, of the common stereotype, So, you're like a beacon of hope, Maybe when they're sitting down in a conversation, of a so-called white is sitting down having a dinner conversation with some other people, and someone say, oh, I tell you, man, all these black people, they're all the same. They don't care about nothing. Now, since you've made yourself an ambassador, this person who's come to your business is going to be like, hey, you know what? That's a false statement. Let me tell you about, such and so's shop down here. This is a great place, blah, 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 good place to do business, So, that's one of the downsides, and the other effect, which really gets underneath my skin, is the fact that, immediately, when the so-called, when the so-called American Negro, finds out about a quote-unquote black-owned establishment, for some reason they believe simply because of the color of their skin, they're entitled to a discount. Okay? Now, that's something that continues to baffle me to this day. My grandfather, Jimmy Trice, used to tell me about that. He once told me a story about, he owned a sanitation company, owned fleets of trucks. And he said that when he would go down into Detroit, for some of the contracts that he had down there, he said that one time this so-called black, who was also a business owner, said, hey brother, I'd like to, inquire about getting the service. And he's like, listen, you need to call the office. My wife handles that, and she'll give you the rates and this, that, and third. And the guy told me, say, well, listen, man, so you need to give me a break, And my grandfather told him, I don't need your business. You have a nice day, And I asked him, I said, man, why would you do that, Granddad? And he was like, here's the thing. If you get started down that path, you will never be profitable, And also that type of thinking, saying is counterproductive to what our people need to be able to achieve, right? I took that in, thought that was interesting, Now I watched my father, and he same thing, same exact thing, he turned down jobs, because he's out there, he's a contractor, and somebody says, hey brother, let me get a discount. Father, I'm not your brother. I don't know you. You don't know me. You need to respect me as a business owner. And his thing will be this. Would you contact a Caucasian, a Caucasian-owned business and tell them that you need to, get a discount? He said that the guy said, no, I wouldn't do this. He said, why in the hell do you think that you could do that to me? So what ends up happening, long and short of it, we started to experience this on our own. Now, my wife, Gigi, she is one very highly qualified and a very technical hairstylist. She's a master stylist. So it would only follow suit that eventually she was gonna open up her own salon. And she paid her dues. Worked for J.C. Penney for 10 years as a stylist there. Had only had that one job when she came right out of cosmetology school. She graduated #1 in her class, all that. So we opened up our own salon, and immediately we had to establish pretty much a baseline. Now her prices are her prices. We don't deviate from it. We have people from all over the country, also all over the world, from different ethnicities. Again, I'm not just bragging on my wife, but we are the #1 multi-ethnic salon in Central Florida. And I can say she can back it up. That's just what it is. She can back that statement up. Now, the culture that we have in our salon is akin to the same cultural norms that we have within our home. By that I mean, you come there to the salon, whether you're male or female, you come in there. There's not going to be, any gossiping, none of the stereotypical behavior. It's a very tranquil place, and it's a peaceful place, and it's a place of business. I'll say that again. It is a place of business. So for some odd reason, despite the decor, and also you can see the type of clientele that my wife has that comes in there, we are not immune to the American Negro and the foolishness that they try to bring at us. For instance, I'm a person who does not believe that in order to succeed as a business that you need to be offering coupons and freebies, because as my father told me, when you start doing that kind of stuff, you devalue your self-worth, and then you can basically train your customer base into believing that you're not worthy of what your appropriate wage is, and so they're always going to be looking for a freebie. Now that scans across saying the spectrum. You can that goes against with so-called whites and so-called blacks and the American Negro. You could lump everybody into that same group, because that's just what the expectation is. People are always going to want to get the most bang for their buck, more or less. So we said we're not going to do that. We did the advertising, word of mouth thing. So we've had a couple of incidences where we had a couple clients were already there. My wife stays booked. A couple of clients sitting in the chair. Different ethnicities, and then in straggles an American Negro. Okay. Now by that, in this description, it was a female. And she comes in. She's wearing like all this gaudy jewelry. And she comes in there and starts talking real ignorant. Now, you would have figured that when she opened that door and came in, she would have been like, what? I might need to take it up a notch. This might not be the place for me. But no, she insisted. So she comes in there and she starts running her mouth, and like, how you doing, ma'am? She's like, oh, ma'am, I ain't this, that, and the third. And she just, my wife is working on somebody's hair, and she's like, hey, girl, how you doing? My wife turned around and said, excuse me? Do I know you? She's like, nah, I need to get my hair did. I'm like, good Lord. Come on, man. Really? You need to get your hair did. So I'm sitting here, at the front desk. I got Gianna. She's been, working and training. So I'm there for security purposes. I'm there to make sure that don't nobody come up in there, and try to get my wife. You know what I'm saying? Or get my kids or harm anybody that comes to the salon. So, I'm sitting there and I'm talking to her. I said, excuse me, young lady. I said, there's a standard of respect, that needs to be maintained here, So she looks at me. She's like, well, whatever. So I was like, okay, here we go. So then she comes to the front. And then the next thing to me was like, hey, what can I get for free? I said, well, wow, what can you get for free? She's like, yeah, I got, I need to get, my weave done. I need to get a relaxer. I need to get, this, that, and the third. I don't speak, hair talk that well, personally. I'm just sitting there like, okay. But the one thing I do understand is when somebody says free and discount. So I said, all right, let me just play this out. Let's see where it goes. So I said to the young lady, I said, are you a member of law enforcement? She said, no. I said, are you a teacher? She said, no. I said, well, obviously you're not a senior. I said, are you a first responder? No. I said, well, got some news for you. There's no discount available to you. Oh, you kidding me? Oh, y'all gonna do me like that? I'm looking at it, I was like, again, man, we don't know you. I said, then I had enough. So I tell you what, I said, you looking for some place where you can get a discount, right? Yeah, you looking for free stuff? I said, yeah. She said, yeah. I said, okay, cool. I said, well, follow me. She's like, oh, okay. I walked her right out the front door. And then I pointed. I said, you can go to the left, go down the highway there. You can find over at the Walmart, you know what I'm saying? They offer all that type of stuff. They'll do, you know what I'm saying? You can haggle and negotiate all you want. Then you go the other way, yeah, you can find some free services down that way too. Then she just kind of was stunned, She's like, oh, wow, y'all really gonna do me like that? I said, I'm not trying to do you like anything. I said, you came in here, you've not only insulted my wife, you've also insulted the other clientele that's sitting around, and you've disgraced and embarrassed yourself, and so what you need to do, I said, you look at it this way. If you owned a business, would you want somebody coming in there trying to get freebies simply because of the color of your skin? Oh, I hadn't really thought about it like that. And it's like, yeah, well, now you have. Have a nice day. And this is not an isolated thing, so we've had that happen a couple of times. And then what happens also is that the general public sometimes, they will believe by simply seeing people of color who have a business, they believe, that we are, we subscribe to the American Negro type culture. Meaning that, even though they're not from here, but they believe that that we'll subscribe to that simply because they got dark skin. Like you'll come in, they'll talking, so very, very, very fluid, in their speech. They speak the so-called Queen's English, and then they'll start that, hey, black-owned business, huh? Yeah, y'all, what y'all offering anything right now? I said, yeah, by offering, do you mean a job? If you're looking for a job, we might be able to help you out. But I don't understand where you're going with this. Oh no, well, I just thought that. I said, okay. I said, here we go. I said, you thought that because we're a quote unquote black-owned business that you could come in here and basically take food out of our mouths. No, I didn't mean it like that. I said, well, there's no other way to interpret this statement. I said, when you go to Walmart and they tell you, hey, the produce over here, this apple, is 99 cents. The price is right on the sticker. You don't take it up to the front register and say, hey, Mr. Store Manager, because the color of my skin, can I get 20% off? No, well, it's not the same. Well, I'll be damned. It sure is the same. It's the same exact concept, So again, there goes the difference between, so-called black economics and American Negro economics. For some reason, our young people are being led to believe, that by quote unquote looking rich, and what they don't understand is that rich is a state of mind. You can have that. That's where the wealth is at. Or any type of money that you can acquire, or any goods that you acquire, is worthless. You are not going to take that with you. People are not impressed. I for one am not impressed. But what I am impressed by is when a young person has knowledge, and they understand that, hey, if I, take, my money, saying hold on to it, and I can try to grow it, or I can use it to go to college, or even if I want to go out later on in the week, I can do that. That is what's impressive to me. That's what's impressive to me. And like I said, we're all, at one point or another, as people of color, we've become, victim to that scenario. But the bottom line is that, you need to understand that, that's got to be like a one-time occurrence. Once you've been brought into the light, and you understand what's going on, you have a responsibility, not just to yourself, but to those who are coming behind you, and those who are out in front of you. You have a responsibility to be the best person that you can be. You have a responsibility to conduct yourself, in a manner which demands respect. You grabbing yourself, saying, waiting online for 6 hours for a new pair of Jordans is not going to do anything to improve your situation. If anything, it's going to set you back. Because during those 6 hours, you could have been working, you could have been, reaching out to the young people in the community. You could have been teaching. You could have sat and talked with, some of your elders, but no, instead you're foolish enough to do that. Okay. In addition to that, you can, expand that a little bit more and look at the iPhone and the phenomenon. These idiots will stand online, for 2 days for a damn iPhone. They can't afford it, but they'll scrape together the $600 or $700 that they got to do that, and now they ain't got no money. Now they broke, but yet they won't stand online for a damn job interview, saying, or saying they won't stand online, to have an opportunity to interview. They won't do that for anything constructive, And again, it comes down to, the economics, and what goes into that, you got to have knowledge. Someone has to be willing to share that knowledge with you, So we'll go into it a little bit further at some other point. But I'm definitely encouraged by what I've seen. I have a lot of younger cousins who are definitely, doing some really good things and some really big things, And I definitely appreciate everything they're doing, to break these stereotypes. And our family is no different than any other. We have those, who have reveled and they've been sidetracked, and they've been bamboozled, and unfortunately they've been caught by that crushing wave that is the American Negro subculture, and unfortunately it's too late for them. It's too late for them. But if they have children, we might be able to save their children, and save our own future, at the same time. Well, that's going to do it for this episode on so-called black economics, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Be good.